Welcome to church with the Salvation Army Colac.
It's been another big week for most of us, I think, but what we can do right now is set aside some time to just focus and worship our God who is good no matter what the circumstance. And we've seen a lot of good, haven't we, this week, in amongst all of the chaos. But for right now, let's just centre ourselves and worship Him together. In this time of isolation and being separate, we want nothing more than to connect with our community in whichever way we can find. And in order to do that, we thought of a little resource that the Salvation Army has brought out called Pass the Salt. It is specifically a conversation starter game that helps you explore life and faith and Jesus, and it's actually a really cool resource. And so we thought today we might do a little conversation starter with you at home. Now, what's really cool is that the Salvos have just brought out some COVID-19 related questions that they've sent through electronically, which we've printed out and put here. And we thought today what we'll do is we'll pick a couple random, we don't know what's in there, and we'll have a little short conversation ourselves about what our thoughts are on those topics. And then when we're done, we might throw it over to you. And if you have some thoughts or some opinions that you want to share with us, that maybe you could do that either in the conversation on the Facebook page or in our YouTube channel. Either way, we'll find them. And then maybe next week when we do the next episode, we can share some of your thoughts, and we'll just keep that conversation going as community. So
we also invite you to, if it's something a little bit more personal, you can always personal message the page, which myself and Karen, we admin that. So we'd encourage any of these questions, if it drums up anything for you, if you wanted to explore any sort of information regarding Pass the Salt or anything else, contact us there, and we'd be more than happy to have a look at those questions and hopefully help as best we can. So
yeah, I think what's key for us is that if you're keeping the conversation going, then you're not alone. And in this time, I think that's what's really important, is that we're not alone, that we know that people are there for us. So why not, start it off like this? So yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, why not? I'll grab a card.
Pick a card.
And the question's
Any
for you.
card. It's for both of us.
All right, orange. The question is, how can we support our essential workers during the COVID-19 crisis?
Ooh, good one. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on our essential workers. You see a lot of posts. I think social media has become very strong, has it not?
Yeah.
And you see a lot of posts that are like heart-wrenching, of like nurses who are just doing everything they can, putting their lives at risk, and then I suppose their families at risk. And I'm in awe, to be honest, of these people that just put themselves at risk every day. And I do have moments where I think, what can I do to support these people? And I guess when it comes to people in essential services, our role is, as obviously we have some role to play in essential services when it comes to our community support services, but otherwise I think our role is to do what we're told. In to stay home, to follow the guidelines of social distancing, and sometimes it really sucks. Like, I don't love staying home. I'm a social butterfly. I like to be out and
have a coffee.
But I think right now what's most important is to just do what we're doing in keeping away from people where possible. And that's actually supporting them. That's actually doing all we can to stop the flow of them having overflowed hospital spaces and doctors' rooms and things like that. But also even essential services. You think of the supermarket workers. I've seen some. They look tired because they are working harder than ever before. They're probably copping a whole lot of abuse, and it's a struggle. That it's hard for them as well. So again, I think it's just respecting them and being kind to them and doing what you're supposed to do. Like, if you need to do a shop, get in there, get out, be respectful. And I think that's the best way we can do it.
Yeah, I think even with those of us who, there's some schools which have the ability for some parents to send, if they are involved in the essential services sector, to be able to send their kids to school. Obviously with technology and that, I know that our children are connected in that way to our teachers, and they're still putting out resources in a very new and challenging way. And whilst that's a bit of a new stress and a new thing to have to cope with in homeschooling our own children, being able to be in contact with them and just saying thank you for what you're doing in a small way, contacting them. I know Amelia, our daughter, she's able to talk to her teacher, and so instead of throwing across negativity about what's happening, you can actually just have some positive words of affirmation, basically, and just say thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate the support you're still providing. And in turn, by helping the teachers at school, you're able to help those people in those extended healthcare situations of essential services do their roles better as well. So in turn, we're supporting a big section, a big part of this, the operation that's making COVID-19 hopefully become a success quicker rather than later. So I think it's about trying to drum up positivity wherever we can, as you sort of said. Facebook and social media, it's an easy avenue to talk very negative into things, but it's also a great tool to be able to talk positively and to affirm all the good that's happening as well. So
and like my thoughts even go to after this is all done, our essential services, they're going to be worn out, they're going to be tired, they're going to want rest, and I really hope that that's going to happen, that there's going to be some sort of lull where essential services workers are actually able to just take a breather and go, wow, we survived that, pat ourselves on the back, we did a good job, and I think we need to continue to support in that way as well, that we cut them some slack maybe, give them a bit of a break, and that sort of thing. So
that's right. Yeah, cool. All right, take 2.
Take 2, next one.
Card number 2.
Try and pick a different colour.
Hope it's not hard.
Oh, I'll pick the same colour.
What do we got?
Okay, this has got a scripture on it from John 13:34, and it says, love one another. And then it says, share an example of kindness that you have seen recently. Where do you start?
Yeah, I know. Well, I know just locally in Colac, there's been a number of different people who have taken it with the connectedness that social media brings, and then the heart of certain people. They've used that as an opportunity to connect with other people or have their friends let them know of, say, a grandparent or a senior member of their household that needs help and they're not able to help them themselves. But these people have put themselves out there and saying, what can I go and do? What can I go and get? For the Salvation Army, for us in Colac as well, we've had people contacting us and saying, how can I help? It just asking that simple question is one of those ways that we can show love and show an intentionality to wanting to help in this time. So we've seen a number of people putting together food parcels and hampers and essential care items, being able to take them out to the elderly folk that they've been made aware that needs that help in this time, which has been fantastic. We, as the Salvation Army, have received food items, we've received monetary donations that we've been able to put together to help more people in that situation as well. Because when we talk about COVID-19, it's not all about actual people with the virus who are in quarantine, but it's also those people that are being specifically not targeted, but the flow-on effect. There's so many, with all the decisions that are having to be made by government, and they're hard decisions. There's the flow-on effects. There's businesses that have had to close their doors because they're not essential. There's staff within those businesses. There's those little bits that affect different people. So whether it's for us as a community support service or these individuals that are helping out in their own special way to show love, they're able to do that through the connectedness that technology brings us, through people calling through. It's a bit of like a daisy chain of phone calls coming around, but then showing that love by going out and doing what they can to help them as well. So that's been pretty special to be a part of, and also to see happen in our community.
Yeah, and like I straight up thinking of a couple of specific examples. Over Easter time, we were able to have some donations of chocolate Easter eggs and things like that. And then so we pumped them out to some young families in the area, which was really great. And then we were getting responses back from people saying, oh, like, this is actually too much for my family. I've repackaged some of this up and I'm going to hand it out to my neighbours. And like straight up, I was just like, wow, that's amazing. Like someone could easily just go like, oh, I'm going to have all of that. That's going to last me for ages. But they thought, no, actually I can pass this on. So that straight up touched me. I thought, wow, people are showing love, where maybe this might not have happened if we weren't resetting and thinking about life a bit differently. And another one is like very soon after all of this started, online this little group started, and it was the Colac Grocery Swap Group. And basically the whole idea is that they if there's people that have excess of something but need something else, they just throw out there like, hey, I'm after some nappies of this type, I've got some potatoes to swap or something like that.
They were the
and
weirdest
people
of
are like
swaps.
that. Yeah, they were, but
they
like,
worked.
it works because people were going, hey, we've got resources, let's share them rather than hoarding stuff or whatever. And I just thought, that's brilliant. Every so often I see things come up and I think, that's awesome, I've got extra of this, and it gets you thinking, what do I have extra of? And so it's so cool to see community coming together despite all of the madness. And it could turn to anger, it could turn to frustration. But instead, we're seeing people go, actually, like, I want to think about other people. So it's a beautiful thing. I think it's really cool. Yeah.
So it really is as simple as a basic conversation starter, as you just saw between myself and Karen. We didn't know what questions were going to come up, but we'd encourage, and we'll put these up on the screen easier for you at wherever you're seeing this, to be able to message, as we said before, to put through your own. We want to spread positivity, whether that be on the YouTube channel, whether that be on our Facebook page and all that sort of thing. We believe that positivity is what's going to help keep everyone in good mental spirits, and keep us getting through this thing as a connected community. So
we'd love to hear what you want to say. We also, like, I think this one specifically, hearing some examples of kindness that you've seen, I think that'll be a really great conversation to have, to hear about all of the good news stories that are happening out of something that is quite tragic and, you know, affecting the whole world, but actually some good can come out of that. So we'd really love to hear those.
It may even give some of us an idea of how we can help out as well, that we may not have heard of before, by seeing that and looking for that. How can I help in this situation? So we believe that this can only drum up positive things, and we would hope and pray that that is the case. So we encourage you to leave us a message, and communicate with each other and comment on how we can help in this time, given the questions that we were given today. But that was Pass the Salt. I've searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures of faith are never enough. And you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. And I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. And there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you.
On the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together, with the doors locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he had said this, he showed them his hands and side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. Again Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." And with that he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone his sins, they are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven." Now Thomas, called Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe it." A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." Jesus did many other miraculous signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name.
I'm stuck. My mind is all over the place. So much of what I've done up until now involved being in and around others, and I miss that. I'm trying to process everything that has happened recently. I have doubts about what to do, what I can do, and what is actually going to happen. The most concerning for me is the trying to work out what is to come. What is the future actually going to hold? How long will we all feel stuck in this way? And will I remain safe? I'm aware that it is necessary to stay inside. That is where it appears to be the safest. However, this in itself is attacking my own sense of freedom. If I go outside, I might get myself into trouble. There are many people watching our every move, from those in charge to just the general person. There is this sense and feeling of living on the edge in everyone's eyes. Even if I was to go for a simple walk, which is allowed, there are people looking and questioning what I am doing, what's my deal. It's really challenging trying to find the balance. I feel trapped and I don't know when this new normal will relax, when it will feel safe again. I hope that everything settles down soon, but to be honest, I have my doubts. Does that sound familiar? It would be fair to say that we could all be going through a sense of this ourselves with all that is happening with this COVID-19 virus. It would also be fair to assume that many of these same feelings were felt by Jesus' group of disciples as they locked themselves inside of a room for fear of what might actually happen to them. When certainty is taken away and we are not sure what is to come next, especially when it seems like the control is out of our own hands, worry and doubt become very real. If we put ourselves into the exact moment the disciples are in, they would be looking back on the days and years gone by, the events that have occurred, and could be completely lost for words. Their leader, their friend, their brother, the very man Jesus they had seen perform miracles, was now dead. They had gone from seeing Jesus greeted with praise as he entered Jerusalem to now fearing the very people who had greeted them. For all of the disciples, as well as others like Mary Magdalene, they were all clearly experiencing doubts. Now we often look at these verses and focus on the old adage of doubting Thomas. But if we look carefully at what we are shown in Scripture, I believe that doubt was abundant. I think we've almost been unfair on Thomas over time, laying majority of the doubt on him. Doubt is expected when we are geared as human beings to the idea and need for evidence. In very simple terms, No one can claim a Guinness World Record without physically proving it by completing the said feat in a controlled environment in front of a particular group of people, often now with technology capturing that very moment and assessing it carefully to ensure that all doubt is taken away. Unless there is evidence, it can't be real. The problem with that phrase is where it collides with the idea of faith. I recently read that faith is a mystery of the heart that the mind wants to solve. Something we connect with internally but can't process cognitively. To accept something based on faith is to say that we are willing to accept it despite it quite possibly not making complete and perfect sense. I think of exercising to build muscle and fitness. It makes sense to want to feel healthy, strong and fit, but the process is actually tedious and hard, and it often hurts as well. How can something that hurts so much often only give small incremental signs of improvement, if any, be actually good for you? When you start and you can't see the results, you often feel worse actually than when you started. What you need is to have a little faith that the results will come. But I'm sure anyone who has tried this before has also had many doubts. The results will come though, and sometimes only you will know what they are. Others may see a change, but you will definitely feel the change inside of you. Possibly over time, the results may be undeniable to everyone you see as well. When we talk about doubt in regards to these verses in John 20, we often stop at Thomas, as mentioned earlier. How often I have heard about doubting Thomas and his lack of trust in what had happened. However, you could just as readily assume that Thomas was feeling disappointed. The other disciples actually got to see Jesus. What about me? So let's call him disappointed Thomas instead. Or maybe Thomas was jealous. He had been following Jesus around like the rest of them and missed the chance to see him this time. So let's call him jealous Thomas. And I'll stop there. Thomas was actually no different to many of the others in this story. Thomas is human. Mary Magdalene saw Jesus and did not even recognize him. It took Jesus speaking her name to erase the doubt of resurrection. Mary was experiencing doubt. She thought people had taken Jesus' body away. Initially, she even thought that Jesus was the gardener. It took seeing him alive in front of her and hearing her very name spoken to then have her faith restored. On top of this, the disciples dismissed the words of Mary as she returned to them, telling them about her encounter, saying, "I have seen the Lord." Instead, they were locked up in a dark room, and it again took Jesus to meet them in that moment to erase their doubts. You see, it's perfectly human to doubt, but counterpoint, it's also perfectly human to have faith as well. We just seem to be strangely more comfortable with one of these over the other. Doubts play on our negativities, but we would admit to them. Faith is what allows us to believe, but we need to allow ourselves to take that step. So many would say they don't have faith. They have the same underlying characteristic of uncertainty though. We doubt because of things that are unknown to us. Faith is just choosing to believe in what is not fully understood. The difference with doubt and faith is that one is damaging and the other one gives promise and hope. Regardless of belief and how faith works with that, I know that to live a positive life, we need to have a little faith. In humankind, in the decisions of government, even faith in ourselves. So why not in the risen Christ as well? I personally know that there is hope through Christ. We just need to be able to have faith in the message of the risen Christ and his love for us all. He went through all this to take away any barriers that held us back from having a personal relationship with him. He meets us in the darkness, especially when we seek him like the disciples did in that dark, locked room. Doubt is a space where the mind feels dark as well. We need to unlock our minds by inviting Jesus in, working through doubts with the hope Jesus provided. He conquered death, and in doing so revealed himself to those he knew, destroying their doubts and giving way to life. Jesus wants that for each of us as well. Like the gym analogy, at the start of that relationship with Jesus, maybe only we will see or feel the effects on us. It may hurt as well as we hand over that dark stuff to him, as we begin to unlock the benefits. Yes, it takes an effort and an intention, but it is worth it. This COVID-19 has provided many doubts and many fears, like the death of Christ did for his disciples. What we see in times of fear and doubt are different responses though. We still see fear, but we also see hope as people reach out to stay connected in new ways, and we even see the earth recovering in many ways. These verses are a great witness to us today, for even those closest to Jesus had their doubts. But through the death and resurrection, and then Jesus meeting them each in their time of need, Christ indeed provides hope to us each today. We will have doubts. We will have doubts. But we also need to have our faith and believe that Christ will meet us each in our moments of doubt and go with us as we continue to seek him in our own ways, in our own lives. It will take intention, but so does lifting those weights. We won't see results we naturally crave for as humans if we just rest in that doubt. Jesus speaks to each of us who chooses to believe, despite the questions that we will undoubtedly have, saying, "Blessed of those who have not seen and yet have come to believe." We have many historical accounts recorded for us that we just trust are true. In the Bible, we have the ultimate of historical accounts. I encourage each of us to seek out our own truth in this, knowing that we don't have to understand everything and that we will always have questions, but that hope is alive in the risen Christ. And as verse 31 finishes, Jesus did all this so that we may have life in his name. Let me share a prayer with you now. God of history and of my heart, so much has happened to me. During these whirlwind days, I've known death and birth. I've been brave and scared. I've hurt. I've helped. I've been honest. I've lied. I've destroyed. I've created. I've been with people. I've been lonely. I've been loyal. I've been betrayed. I've decided. I've waffled. I've laughed and I've cried. You know my frail heart and my frayed history. And now another day begins. Oh God, help me to believe in beginnings and in my beginning again, no matter how often I've failed before. Help me to make beginnings, to begin going out of my weary mind into fresh dreams, daring to make my own bold tracks in the land of now. To begin forgiving that I may know truth, to begin discipling that I may create beauty, to begin sacrificing that I may accomplish justice, to begin risking that I may make peace, to begin loving that I may realize joy. Help me to be a beginning for others, to be a singer to the songless, a storyteller to the aimless, a befriender of the friendless. To become a beginning of hope for the despairing, of assurance for the doubting, of reconciliation for the divided. To become a beginning of freedom for the oppressed, of comfort for the sorrowing, of friendship for the forgotten. To becoming a beginning of beauty for the forlorn, of sweetness for the soured, of gentleness for the angry, of wholeness for the broken, of peace for the frightened and violent of the earth. Help me to believe in beginnings, to make a beginning, to be a beginning, so that I may not just grow old, but grow new each day of this wild, amazing life you called me to live, with the passion of Jesus Christ. Amen.
into a love song. From this lament, raise up an anthem. Turn my lament into a love song. And from this lament, raise up an anthem. Yet I will praise you, yet I will sing of your name. Here in the shadows, here I will offer my praise. What's true in the light, still true in the dark. You're good and you're kind, and you care for this heart. Lord, I believe you weep with me. You weep with me.
Thank you for joining us for worship today. If you have any questions that came out of our service or any general questions, please message us on our Facebook page and we'll be sure to get back to you.
Also, if you're a young family, particularly with children of playgroup age, every Tuesday at 9:30 on our YouTube channel, the Colac Salvos Kids,
Yep.
we have just a short, just under 20 minutes, I think, video that has some singing and some stories and craft activities, a little bit of fun for the kids because we can't do our normal live version of playgroup. So if you'd like to check that out, please do so. We also still have our community support services office open on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. If you are needing any kind of help that we could assist you with, please don't hesitate to call us. It's a confidential and very discreet service, and so you'll be well looked after.
Now the number to call as of 9 o'clock on those mornings of Monday, Wednesday and Friday is 5231 1178 to be able to get an appointment. So we encourage you to do that.
Those who are in the Colac area, we want to be here for community because community is what we're most excited about. So please don't hesitate to call.
Now the last thing to remind us all on was the Pass the Salt. Now if you watch this whole video, we encourage you to engage with this Pass the Salt conversation starter, and we want to drum up positivity through this COVID-19 crisis. So if you can have a look at those questions, provide some comment on it, it may spur people on to other acts of kindness as a result of that. But we just want to spread a good message and the idea of love from one person to another and from those people to the community. So we really do hope that people can engage with that. Again, leave a comment on either our YouTube page or even on Facebook, and we'll be able to join together in conversation over those questions.
We're sending out blessings and love to each of you, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.